this is David Brooke. Thanks so much for joining us. I am the team lead at Brooke Group Real Estate here at EXP, and what we've decided to do today is basically come together as a bunch of agents, and we're going to talk to you about some of the things that are happening in our local marketplace that buyers and sellers are constantly asking us, along with our co-brokes in the community. And we'd love to just have a conversation about some of the most popular questions that are out there. I'd like to get started with Max right away, and just let me ask you, what are some of the hesitations that buyers are seeing in the local marketplace right now, their hesitations to get into such a competitive market?
Yeah, two things I really see. One, I want to wait. Like now might not be the right time to buy. I'm going to wait until next year. And the second thing typically is paying over the list price, because in the past years we weren't doing that, and now it's a different market.
What are you guys telling your clients to still encourage them to get in? Because I can imagine that's a fun experience to get into a market where you're going to be bidding almost against other buyers in the market. How are you handling that?
Well, it's tough right now. I mean, buyers are hesitant to get involved. They don't want to overpay. But at the same rate, there is a bigger need there. I mean, they need more space for work from home. They, now have kids that might be, going to school several days per week from their home. The reality is that no one really knows when prices are going to cool off and the market's going to slow down. So we could be in a situation where this could perpetuate for years and years on end. So really, what I tell my buyers is think about what's your actual reason for moving? Is that going to change or not?
Yeah.
And if it's not, well then that's what it makes.
And do you feel like buyers are overpaying right now, or do you feel like buyers are in the situation where they're looking back and saying, you know what, like 6 months ago I thought I was overpaying, and actually like I wasn't. It was it was a lower price point back then. Like, what are your thoughts about that? And talk mortgage, interest rates, all those kinds of things. What are you seeing in the market, Christine?
Yeah, so I've had a number of clients that waited, and now they come back and they say, I don't even want to wait anymore because I waited and I'm just seeing the prices go up and up and up. And I've had homes appraised. It's homes, the prices are increasing because there's a lot more buyers. Interest rates are still a little bit lower. So, I mean, I'm still seeing that their homes are appraising. And
yeah, let's talk about that. Just because even as like being a real estate appraiser as well, like I know that many people are concerned, like, am I buying a property that's actually not appraising? And what I'm seeing is that real estate appraisers are actually utilizing these things called time adjustments in their appraisal reports, which have you guys seen some of those being used in your appraisal reports?
Yeah.
And just to describe that a little bit more, that's when the appraiser is actually utilizing the market data to justify an increase from the last time another property sold in the market to today's date, and saying, okay, we're going to add some of that market inflation in there in order to justify the sale price. What are you guys doing if a property does not appraise? Have you ever seen something like that show up?
I want to throw my hat in really quickly and just say that I haven't had a property not appraised since March of last year.
And why do you think that is?
I think because the market is there. I mean, it's very easy for an appraiser to look at recently sold comps, to look at the multiple offers that are being received on the property, and take that information and then know that they need to make an adjustment, like you said, for the time.
I find myself, like really finding it so important and crucial that when you're representing on the seller side to actually show up at those appraisals. And if you're a seller in the market, like your agent absolutely needs to be the advocate for the value that is there and present for your property, showing up with why don't you guys talk about that? Like a list of some of the improvements.
So I recently had a property that did not appraise. And of course it was way off in my opinion. And we fought the appraisal.
Okay.
And came back with a list of comparable sales and came back with all of the improvements. And once they looked at that, it did end up appraising. So if you're not there and you're not able to discuss that with the appraiser, they may not know those things.
Yeah, it's very interesting because most of the time the real estate agent understands the property like the owner best. And it's very difficult sometimes for an appraiser within 20, 30 minutes to fully understand a property if either the owner's not present or if the real estate agent's not present. So, I mean, at least for me, I could encourage sellers every single day to make sure that they're hiring real estate agents that take the protocol to actually get out to the property and to justify that value and to provide the comparable sales data that really supports what's going on in the market. What are you guys seeing when it comes to, home inventory right now? Like, people are talking about home inventory being low. What does that mean to the person who's like looking online and thinking about getting into the marketplace? What does that mean for you guys? Carly, you want to speak to that a little?
It just means that the inventory in the past, we might have been able to scroll through 4 or 5 pages on Zillow or Realtor.com. Now you have less homes available to see on Realtor.com, and it's just that today there's just less houses in maybe your particular even price range. Sometimes it could be one price range, there'll be a few more that'll pop up, and then a lower price range, it could be something different. But it's just, there's just not as many homes right now.
And so you had just previously talked about like there's a huge need. There's people from New York coming in and across the country. If you guys, would probably agree with that. They're all across the country. People are working from homes in houses that they would normally love, but are now like, absolutely, I need to get out of so I can get to a bigger space, have a work from home space. So there's a ton of demand. And now there's not a lot of supply. That's what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it is literally all the way up into the high price points.
Which we haven't seen in quite some time, especially in Connecticut.
Like new construction is blowing up right now.
Yeah, so we'll talk about new construction in a little bit. I want to focus for a second for some of the viewers that are watching on. Maybe you could each take something here. Maybe we'll just kind of go down the panel and just say like, what's one thing that you're doing in order to help your buyer have that cutting edge when it comes to like presenting an offer? What's something that you would do, Carla?
Well, I like to talk to the agent, the selling agent.
Okay.
And introduce myself.
Yep.
Introduce my buyer by chatting and go over the fact that they're comfortable with the home. For example, if we're looking at an antique home, my buyer's comfortable with an antique home. They understand an antique home. They're not afraid of home inspections of an antique home. We use inspectors that are familiar with antique homes. The lender that they are using, they've gone through the process. We're just waiting for an appraisal.
So you're taking the fear away, because I think that, it's a very common thing for most sellers to say, I've got a purchase price that I want. And I know I've got a couple of buyers that are willing to give me that purchase price, but I'm nervous that during the process, during that home inspection, the hiccups are going to come up and we're going to start to have a little bit of fallout. So what you're doing, if I'm hearing you right, is you're basically taking the fear out of the situation for the seller side, especially in the inspection. Max, what are you doing in today's market?
I think one of the bigger things I'll position with my clients is mostly the lending, but the scope. A seller is looking for the best chance to close on the home. Mm-hmm. A buyer who will close. Sometimes they will accept someone lower because they trust the lender. They know the lender. Yep. They're a local lender. They're not cut from the same cloth. So I'll work with someone who's local, who a lot of selling agents know and trust, because that's the best benefit I can give to my client, as well as talking through the terms of a deal. But more often than not, if the confidence is there from my buyer presented to the seller that we will make it to closing 100%, I've just given a leg up tremendously over everybody else. That's probably one of the bigger advantages I've seen that I really push.
Yeah, it's funny that the familiarity, it's almost like you're selling the offer, not only just the price of the offer, but you're also selling all of the components of that offer that go together. And so whether it's home inspection or mortgage, let me take the fear out and use that word that you had previously said of confidence. I need to convey that confidence to a seller. When we start this process, we're going to get to the end. Lindsay, what are you doing these days?
Yeah, it's kind of to piggyback off of what Carla said. I'll call the listing agent and see what's important to the seller, because in all honesty, I had a deal that we won recently, not because we were the highest, not because we offered as is, because we were the first offer. Okay. That was what was important. We wanted it the most. We submitted our offer first. I mean, who would have thought of that?
It's funny how like a term that might not even show up on paper of urgency and eagerness was actually the term that the seller valued the most. Like the seller valued that confidence that if this person is ready to get out to the property as soon as possible with an agent that's also willing to get out to the property as soon as possible, they're going to be the ones that are going to get me to the finish line with confidence, without fear. So Lou, what are you doing today?
That's exactly right. I mean, people are concerned that the buyer will actually be able to close on the home. So that's really important that we can all convey that confidence. One of the things that I'm doing to help make my buyers confident, which in turn helps us win offers, is I spend a lot of time up front going through the whole process, the purchase agreement, the representation agreements. That way they know what we're getting into before they actually go and make that offer. In that time, I also explain to them that with the market that we're in, it's almost like the list price is the opening bid for a property. Where a year or two ago, it was common to be able to buy a home below the list price. That's just changed now. So I'm having that conversation up front with my buyers so they're aware. and kind of reminding them and backing up the information with data. I want to make sure that they're comfortable and that they know, the property's going to appraise, you're getting a good home at a good price. We're just working differently than we would have a year or two ago.
I find that like expectation setting is one of the biggest things that you can do to make any relationship successful, whether that's business or personal or anything like that. It's those who go into any type of that business arrangement with the proper expectations are the ones who are going to get out on the other side in a successful manner. And I think, doing that buyer consult, I mean, you talked about this, before with me about like how important it was to do a buyer consult with your clients. We're also doing seller consultations that can allow them to set the proper expectations on what they can expect, how many showings that they can have on the market, and how we're going to handle the offer process. I think that that's so important. And when you do that on both sides, it's only a win-win situation there. Christine, what are you seeing in order to help your buyers really just kind of compete in this market?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to piggyback off of everyone just because that is something that I do as well. I always call the listing agent just to see what is the most important, because that at the end of the day, we're sending in an offer for the seller. So, and I do kind of what Lou does up front and educate as much as I can. We do the buyer consultation. We walk through the comps. We walk through the areas that they're looking in. We look at some of the homes that are either under contract in that price range that they're thinking of, or what might have closed in the area, just so they can get an idea based on photos, square footage, what we're looking at.
And I love how that relates so much, because you were just saying something just earlier when we were chatting just about the market valuations, and how when you present the comparables of where the market, not only where it is, but like where it's going, and you do that so well, I've just seen from your buyers, you set your buyers up for so much success that they're actually confident to bid as to where it's going. And now all of a sudden, like, they're the buyer that stands out versus some of the rest of them. And I'm sorry if you were going to say something more to that.
That's okay. Just, we have to do as much education as we can before we even go to the properties, because sometimes we go to the property and sometimes we drive to a parking lot and write up the offer right there. So, sometimes you can't necessarily have those conversations after the showing. So
I love how you brought up expectations with that. And I think one of the other things that we've talked about previously, especially with even mortgage, is getting that pre-approval process not just started. I feel like the average real estate agent is going to tell you, start with the pre-approval. I think what we've talked about before is going so much further to get that pre-approval only subject to an appraisal happening. So when you're submitting on it, you're pretty much calling the seller's agent, or your lender's calling the seller's agent if you're a buyer in the market, and they're saying, hey, listen, subject to an appraisal, this loan closes. And it provides so much confidence, removes the fear from the situation. So I think that those are super, good ways that we can sharpen our edges when it comes to helping our buyers. There's so many more tools out there. So if you're a buyer watching this, please reach out. We'd love to share some more tools. I want to get to what Carla said before and talk about new construction, because new construction is actually a little bit more difficult today than it was before. And not only because it's just in such a demand, but prices are going up. What are you guys kind of seeing if you're doing new construction right now?
Yeah, prices are really high with new construction. It's lumber prices, everything to build a home is higher. But what you're seeing is that you have people that are buying at a higher price point. They're overbidding close to $100,000 over that price point. So at that point, they're going, let me build. Right. So then you go out and you're building. So you're basically almost paying the same amount per square foot per price point as you would if you were buying a resale versus new construction.
And I know I've seen that for myself, going out with buyers, and they get so frustrated with the retail market that they decide to say, hey, should we just look at some land and kind of shift into that? And so for us, we've been offering seminars on for new construction. And that's something too, if you're a buyer in the marketplace, that you can actually come to some of these events and watch us talk through and work with some of the lenders who specialize in new construction. We're seeing what are some of the average build times that you've seen from some of your new constructions even being delayed?
So it's usually a 10 to 13 month build time. Builders have a queue of 10 to 15 houses that they never had before. You need to do your research with the builder. You need to make sure you know who is building the property and feel comfortable with that, because that is another thing that you want to make sure you go through with your buyer. So and to make sure the buyer has a total good expectation for building, because the building process is completely different. I mean, they're more involved. There's a lot more to building a home versus doing the retail.
Yeah, and I think that that's been a huge thing in the market too, especially for real estate agents. They've actually become more involved on the new construction side than ever before, simply out of delays. And like Christine was talking about, setting those expectations with the buyer. Because if it's not set, it used to be maybe even a 6-month build time because they had already poured foundation or something like that. And now it's actually extended due to delivery.
It's a lot of things. It's like the refrigerators are on back order,
Exactly.
the cabinets are on back order, and so you have to stay on top of your buyers to make sure they meet their deadlines on everything with the contract, because if they wait, then everything gets pushed back.
It's funny how new construction has
I think
been
right
backed.
now, I love new construction because I like the aspect of buyers that do it. They're not so much going after competition.
Yeah.
So that's
Right,
a really
yeah.
great benefit.
That's
Obviously,
true.
they're paying in the time, but either they stay with a family or they find a rental. I have a couple of guys doing that right now. The other thing is it's a lot of fun because you can build your house the way you want it to. So that need of, I need to get into a bigger home exactly how I like it because I'm working from home. That's another huge benefit. The other benefit, as everyone is talking, the interest rates are historically lower. So again, the financing for new construction is
Well, what does that mean for like the average
become
buyer?
more affordable. I mean, average buyer in that sense is that the mortgage that it used to take, or your monthly, let's say you built a brand new house, it's $500,000 just for ease of example, it would have been $3,500 a month, is now $2,800 a month or $3,000. So people don't mind because the opportunity to take advantage of is there. So that's what a lot of times I tell that to buyers, even with new construction, or I'll say it might be a little bit more difficult to find a home, but that doesn't mean that the opportunity to buy a home is wrong. The opportunity right now is great. It's a little bit more difficult, but that's okay. Everyone else is dealing with that. Like we may lose an offer or we may lose one, but there were probably 6 or 7 other people who are feeling the same way. And everyone's wanting to take advantage, which is what I'm saying is it is a good time to take advantage of the opportunity.
That's
And you
such a
do
good point.
want to do it smart and work with someone who knows the market, breaks those myths, market value. We're talking about CMAs, all that stuff. Analyzing the market is really important.
Yeah, I would agree with you so much that like right now, people talk about it being a seller's market. People talking about the opportunities with buyer. I think it's an opportunity market. That's what I think it is. I think if you're wise, I think if smart money's looking, it's an opportunity market. Whether that's investments and finding things off the market, right, which we've talked about before. Whether that is on the buy side and realizing money is very cheap right now, and although prices are increasing, I can still get this on a monthly payment that makes sense. Or I've seen the opportunities on the seller market and I can take advantage of that and sell for a higher price. So let me ask the big question, which is on so many people's minds. How do I sell my house and find a place to go? It kind of feels like that chess situation where I'm in stalemate. I can't actually list my property. I don't know where to go. What are some of the suggestions that you're having? Lindsay, do you want to take this one and kind of talk about some of the strategies that you've employed for your sellers over the time? And then, maybe some of you else can take some of the suggestions there.
Yeah, so I have a scenario right now where my sellers need to sell in order to build their next home. And there's a lot of lining things up at the exact moment. And that happens for a lot of people. And so I think in a market where there's such a shortage of homes for sale, it's important to be looking at houses that maybe aren't listed obviously up for sale. So maybe finding something that's off market, or going to a neighborhood and door knocking, or just finding that special house for someone that maybe they didn't think they could ever get. But if the real estate agent goes above and beyond, we can get it for them.
Yeah, one amazing story. And if you don't mind me just asking, Christine did this the other day. I don't want to steal your thunder. So
No, it's okay. I've been waiting to talk about it.
Okay, please. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So what did you do?
So one of my clients, they are just found out that they're expecting, so they're really excited. We offered on a property, unfortunately didn't get it. And they told me, Christine, this is the area that we really want to be in. If any of these houses come on the market, we'd love any of them. So what I did was, thanks to Lou, we pulled all the addresses. I sent out a letter to all of the seller or owners, and I just got my first response yesterday. So I sent it out last week, and I've already got someone. I've got a call on Thursday to talk to someone. So we're doing different things to get in front of the owners of the homes to see, hey, we have clients that are interested. Could we have a conversation, and maybe, my clients can move in at their convenience, at your convenience, and make it a win-win.
And that like pretty much actually answers some of the questions that I'm talking about too, which is how do sellers win in this sort of scenario? Price is, I tell my sellers this often. Price is a very important term. In fact, it's the term that you're left with after the closing, right? You want to look in your bank account to see what was I left with at the end of the day. But price is not always the most important term, just like Lindsay had described before with the seller that saw the urgency of her buyer. Sometimes it's actually, I need a longer time to move out. Maybe I need a lease back scenario. Maybe, we want to close sooner and, allow us more time in order to move out of the house. Today, we have to kind of get a little bit creative when it comes to things in order to win deals for our sellers so they feel the confidence and lack of fear in order to move out of the property. Let me ask the question about this. So we kind of answered this a little bit with getting out there for our buyers. We talked about doing lease back scenarios. How are you presenting to your sellers where to price their properties right now and not letting kind of greed jump into the scenario and letting us get the best result given the market? What are some suggestions that you guys have? Lou, do you want to take this one?
Of course. I think it all comes down to data. I mean, at the end of the day, we have good numbers to go back to. We go back 1 year, look at comps within the same area, similar properties. The important thing is that what's driving prices higher is competition. And we don't get competition unless we price the home properly. So in my view, it's always better to price the home at the market value, drive a lot of traffic through the doors, especially in those first 3 or 4 days. Hopefully we get multiple offers, and multiple offers is what pushes prices up. It's all about the scarcity mindset. Buyers want what they can't have. So if they see 25, 30 other showings, we're more likely to get a higher price for the seller.
Yep. And is there, for us, is there any sort of technique that you've employed in order for your sellers to feel more confident in the offer that they choose? How do you present all of your offers? How are you going about that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a spreadsheet that breaks down all the different components.
Of course you do.
Go figure. Multicolored spreadsheet that breaks down every term. So we look at things like you said. Price is extremely important. I'm also looking at inspections. Are they waiving inspections? What's the time frame if they are electing to do inspections? What type of financing is that buyer using? What's their closing date? Are they flexible on the closing date? Really, what I care about is fulfilling what my seller's needs are. So I'm going back to that very first conversation that we had with them, where we figured out, what's important to you and what do you need. Hopefully the offers that are coming in have that. And if not, I can go back to those buyers and say, hey, we might be able to work together if you can do X, Y, or Z. Can you push back your closing date? And generally speaking, buyers are willing to work with you because they want the product. At the end of the day, they want to move into that home.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I see buyers who are so willing to go above and beyond in order to secure that property, going back to that need sort of scenario of, I don't mind paying another $80 a month for this property because I actually need 2 rooms because I've got 2 spouses that are working from home right now, and they both need separate spaces in order to really complete their jobs accurately.
And that $80 per month, that's what $20,000 equates to.
That's exactly right. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Is, every $10,000 is $40 to $50 in your mortgage payment. So it's really not all that much.
But it's $10,000 to the seller.
That's right.
Hard cash.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think one of the bigger things I see is that buyers are getting really creative and adapting.
That's right.
I think one of the bigger things, I like the challenge of someone who says, well, I have nowhere to go. I said, that's why I'm here. The seller side, I think you need to be really creative because the opportunity is there, just like the buyer is. They're dealing with tons of competition. Seller wants to sell their home, but they may not have anywhere to go. There are a lot of solutions to get to the actual goal. I think a lot of times sellers get, and rightfully, concerned about where will I go, what will I do, and you get caught up in it. But there are always solutions along the way to get them to the goal, whether it is I want to sell and downsize. Now that's something we can work with. The rest of it we can make happen. Whether there are terms we can put with our seller that they need to find some place to stay before they sell their home. They can go like a short-term rental. I think getting creative on the sell side is just as important.
Yes.
Just as important because they have almost more opportunity. They'll sell their house higher and they'll get a really great rate on the purchase.
That's exactly
That
right.
makes sense?
Yeah, that absolutely does. I know for Lindsay's been great in the higher end market, and your price point is just, it's grown and grown over the years since we've been business partners together. You've actually seen that higher end market moving a little bit more. Is there anything that you're seeing in that market that's been a little bit different since you've seen, a year or 2 prior?
I would say but you're right. It's moving a lot more quickly than it used to. Those sorts of homes used to sit a lot longer on the market. And then you look at a house that's maybe in the high 100s, low 200s, gone fast, multiple offers. Now those houses in the higher price ranges, they are going just as quickly. They are getting multiple offers over asking. I've even had people offering as is on those homes, when those homes can be, large homes, 4,000 or 5,000 plus square feet, where it's a bigger risk to buy a house while waiving inspections in that sense. So I think the higher end is kind of matching what we're doing in the lower end as well.
And but for you, what I've noticed about like your marketing and what you choose to employ, I know just working on the team, etc., you do not compromise, especially when it comes to your high end. What I'm seeing is like you are just pouring the investment into that process. Is that right with the higher end?
Yeah, can you elaborate on?
Well, just saying that like, you're going all out when it comes to your marketing with those things. So what are some of the things that you're doing in order to elicit as much activity and traffic on the property as possible?
Yeah, so of course we really like to do videos of the property, especially when things were worse during the pandemic and we weren't doing open houses.
That's right.
It was great to have a video to do kind of like a virtual open house. Digital staging, drone photography, just knowing everything you can know about those homes, because sometimes they're also very detailed that only the sellers know those specific things about the house. And I think it's important to market those homes just as it is the smaller ones, because at that time, maybe back in the day, they didn't have as much attraction. Now that they do, you still need to market them the same way.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've seen just about you that you do so well is this broker to broker interaction. And it can't be understated as to how important that can be.
Agreed. And I think also that can help you win a deal. In all honesty, if you have a house that a buyer really wants and that agent knows you're a good person to work with and they enjoy working with you, they may be more than likely to choose your offer just because they know you're going to do whatever it takes to get that deal closed.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, no. If they know the process is going to be smooth and clean and easy with that agent, the agents will relay that to their sellers.
I think it's
one thing I heard
please.
about that recently. I'm thinking back to our Fast Forward Movement call, one of the EXP Mastermind calls that we do every single week. On that call, somebody, I think it was Sekou, called out that it's not a buyer's market or a seller's market, it's an agent's market.
Absolutely.
And what that means is it's up to that agent to get the house for their buyer. And, I've won deals without having the highest price before, and it's all about having rapport, having confidence, knowing that we can close the deal and being able to communicate that for your client.
And I think too, that's where team comes in so much to play. Like we talk about real estate teams and everything and whatever that means in this market, but every single real estate agent has a team. They have a home inspector, they have a lender, they have an insurance person, and they want to know in this market, is that team going to get me from point A to point B confidently? And I think that that's such an important feature, I think, in today's market, that those seller agents are looking at the buyer agents going, that team, I know that they're going to get it to the finish line. Great. Awesome. So I just want to ask one more question as we kind of wrap up here. People are always asking me this. In this market today, with the prices the way that they are, even interest rates, and it could still be a buyer's opportunity, is there any place that people can buy in the investment space where they're still able to, take their capital, put it there, see a return on that? Is that in flips? Is that in the multifamily space? Where is that? Lou, I'm going to direct the question over to you. Is there anything that you're seeing out there where investors can kind of, redirect their capital and get a return?
Great question. There are still some deals to be had on the MLS. We bought 2 last year. 2 of our 5 or 6 deals were from the MLS. It's getting more and more competitive. You have to be able to move very quickly, waive inspections, and buy with cash. Where the opportunity, I believe, really exists is with off-market properties. We're doing a lot to kind of market to build our own personal portfolio. We just closed on a duplex last week that we were able to find off-market. Got it at a great price. I think the other thing that's available to investors, and I just talked to a friend from college a couple days ago about this. We're just catching up randomly, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're in real estate. I've been looking into syndications and passive investing. What do you know about it?" Well, it's a good question to ask, and I'm fortunate to actually be involved in one of those deals right now, where we've raised money from limited partners who've invested in this project with us in Portland, Maine. As you know, it's the 54-unit condo building that you and I partnered on building together. That's a great opportunity for people to get in the game, earn excellent returns, 25% plus per year, without the risk and the work of being a landlord and having to deal with, tenants and toilets and all those things that usually come with, with negative impressions of real estate investing.
Yeah. And we've seen even through great property management that some of our investors, this should not be discounted at all, even during the pandemic, have still seen great returns through their rentals. And actually now their rentals on the backside are valued at so much more, and they're able to retail their investment properties. And we've seen such a strong demand for that over the years.
And refinancing out capital. We're doing that right now. We're refinancing 2 of our properties so I can turn around and buy new properties. So just by, kind of playing the market and knowing the market cycles, I know that my numbers will still work. I might have a little bit of a higher monthly payment by refinancing, but then I have more capital that I can go to put to work. And I'm seeing that with my investors as well.
Excellent. Any recommendations that either of you could give to real estate agents who are in this market, maybe a brand new? You guys are all, experienced. You're more veterans in this business. All of your production, $1 million producers here. Is there anything that you would give as advice, as a gift to maybe some of those newer agents who are just getting started in the business, and you would say, this is my advice to you in order to maximize your career in such a competitive market? Max, you want to kind of take that?
Yeah. It's super easy for me. Find a mentor. That is hands down the best thing you can do. Find someone who has done it and has the time for you. Those 2 components are just as important. From there, if you keep your head down and do the work, you'll do it, but you need a mentor.
Yeah, and I've seen you do that so well. I mean, I hope I didn't set you up for that question too much, but one of the reasons is because on this team, you have excelled in such a profound way for new agents who are coming on, because you're open with your time, you're open with your leadership, and you're open with your experiences on how to win. See, most people have such a scarcity mindset that they fear that if I'm basically training my competition. But your book has been one of abundance and one of profitability, and you've actually seen your people and you've benefited because of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of deals to go around. I think the moment you get down that rabbit hole, you're just, all of your growth, anything is just constrained so bad. If you open that up and just, allow that, the open at least knowledge that you do have for anyone starting, easy to share because everyone can benefit. Some other agent who does really well will actually benefit other agents. If you're still sticking to what you're doing, keeping your head down and doing the work, it's not really going to create more competition. If an agent is more experienced, the process, if you brought a buyer for their seller, will be that much better for you and your clients.
Yep.
So it is better if more agents are more knowledgeable and more experienced.
That's correct.
We can get the market to move in a better way and move faster.
That's correct.
More homes to move faster, more homes to sell faster. So I like that aspect, but I'm kind of more like open hands.
It's funny. It's as if we start small and we do it here and we just continue to help one another grow in our business and become better real estate agents, we're actually serving the consumer further and can create this ripple, almost like this butterfly effect in the market, and change the real estate game in the state of Connecticut and beyond. Lindsay, what's something that for you, just even being within a real estate group or anything like that, or just giving advice to a brand new agent, what would you say to them in order to encourage them?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, I definitely agree. A mentor is huge because without having someone to train you, it's very easy to get into this industry and not know what you're doing. But I would say pay attention. If you keep losing offers, call the listing agent afterwards and say, I know you can't disclose a lot of information to me, but maybe can you give me some tips on how I could have improved my offer? And then learn from your experiences.
That is so important. I think that willingness in order to receive feedback is so instrumental in becoming a really good real estate agent, because most of the time we wish we could just practice somewhere like as if it was a batting cage. You're just practicing over and over. But sometimes it's out in the field and you do lose and it's not great. But that willingness to receive feedback is always helpful for the improvement, not only for yourself, but for your clients as well. Lou, what's an advice that you would give to a brand new agent who's starting right now?
I mean, I would ring that mentor bell loud and hard again, but I'll just bring it a little bit more generally. I mean, I think everybody needs to go through training, and it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 1 month or 10 years. I go to calls every single Monday afternoon. I mentioned kind of those mastermind calls that we have through EXP, where it's top agents from all across the country. You have like 100 plus agents on there. A lot of these people are doing $100, $300, $500 million per year. And from that, I get to learn, not only what's working in that volume range, from a team that's doing that much business, but I'm also hearing, hey, what's working in, Oklahoma, Florida, different markets in California. And that's been really, really eye-opening.
That has been incredible. And just joining you on those calls, and you've always been taking notes and receiving back and sharing with open hands like Max has to the team. It's really been almost like a synergistic effect where you're bringing in that information from other places and other guys are jumping in there, other girls are jumping in there, and it's been super helpful for the group. Christine, what's some advice that you would give to a brand new agent if they were just getting started today?
Well, first off, it's okay to cry.
It's true.
No, but seriously, I mean, I piggyback off of what everyone is saying. Mentors are so key. I mean, it's so easy to just get in your own hole and just, what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with what I'm doing? It's better to talk to someone else. I talk to Lou all the time. I didn't win this. This is what I did. Is there anything you see that maybe I wasn't paying attention to, or maybe I had a blind eye to because I was so invested in this decision situation? Is there anything I could do to improve? It's constant improvement in this industry, I think, is really the key. Constantly just relearning, knowing, talking to other agents, seeing what other people are doing, learning from your mistakes. There's always something to be learned.
Yeah, one of the things that I absolutely love about not only some of the books that we're going through right now, the Atomic Habits, and then Ray Dalio's Principles book, is that feedback loop that they talk about where you're constantly looking at the progress that you've done, analyzing what you did right, where you can improve, employing that mentorship. And you've done that in such a great way and watched your numbers grow over the years with more families that you've helped. Carla, is there anything that you could give? I mean, you're a veteran agent.
I call Carla.
Who doesn't call Carla, right?
I'm going to say, I've been mentored by David and Carla. Yeah. I call Lindsay and Max all the time when I get these oddball situations. Yeah. And Christine, I also call you for advice. And I've been Christine's mentor, but at this point, it's more of like a, kind of peer-to-peer, information sharing and troubleshooting than true mentorship. So like we practice what we preach.
Right. I was going to say shadow and follow other people constantly. I always look to the other agents for advice. Always, because the more you repeat what they're doing, the more you're learning and realize you're going to make mistakes and learn from those.
And you've always had those open hands, like
I
Max
love
said,
helping,
to share.
So it's fun. Yeah, it's great to answer questions and have people learn from what I made my mistakes from before in the past. So,
and that's so true. It's like when we've fallen down, it's like, why would you want your team member to make the same mistakes that you did years ago? And I think you've just done that. Exactly. You've done it in such a good way.
I think the biggest thing with the constant training is, again, it's a benefit to us, but again, it goes into more of a benefit for our client. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's like all the training that we're doing or the calls I'm making, I think too, it's okay to cry, but I love that because one thing that we would talk about too is we do care so much. Like I'm up at nights, I'm thinking about my deals, their families. I'm like, okay, I know that they're protected in this. We're going to do this. I'm going to negotiate this. I'm going to get them to close the table. It's going to be great. Yeah. Like we really care. And so that training and the calls really bleed into the buyer or the seller, whoever we're, representing. That's where the real benefit really comes out. It's cool that we get our job done, but for them, it's huge.
Yeah. Even just to piggyback off of that, I mean, I know I've had sleepless nights and I'm like, I can't stop thinking about this. Is this a problem that I had? I even called Lou this weekend. Like, Lou, tell me if I'm wrong. Am I overthinking this? What is going on? Because we care so much. We want to help our family, our clients who become our friends, who become our family, that we want to make sure that they make the right decision and make sure that we help them the best way we can.
Mm-hmm. And then when it works out for your clients, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing in the world. You get so excited. Yeah. I love it.
Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure to really just have a conversation with some of just us here at the table at Brooke Real Estate at EXP. We love sharing our experiences, not only with just ourselves and saying, hey, these are ways that we can grow, but also with the consumers that are out there in the market, buyers, sellers, investors, renters, whatever it is, along with our wonderful co-bro community. So we hope that you've enjoyed watching some of this. We're going to do some more of these and hopefully just foster this awesome culture that we have here in Connecticut in the real estate community. So thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.